KUNTAO or KUNTAO, KUNTAO, Pei-og, KUNTAO, Tagalog, KUNTAO, is a Hokkien term for the martial arts of the Chinese community of Southeast Asia, specifically the Malay archipelago. It is most commonly practiced in and associated with Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines and Singapore. There are no standard Hanzi for KUNTAO, but the most common reading is Way of the Fist, from Kun Quan meaning fist and Dao Dao meaning way. Less common readings may use the character Kungun meaning staff, or Tutu meaning head, so that it could be translated as Way of the Staff, or roughly, knowledge of fists. In Fujian and other southern areas, this term was originally used for Chinese martial arts in general and was synonymous with Kwanfa, Kwanfa, Pei-og, Kun Ho. The word is recorded in classical Malay and Indonesian, making it the oldest known term for Chinese martial arts in those languages, before the modern adoption of the term Kung Fu. In English, and even in its modern Chinese usage, KUNTAO usually refers specifically to styles brought to Southeast Asia and often does not include other Chinese fighting systems. The presence of Chinese martial arts in the Malay archipelago traces back to ancient contact between China and Southeast Asia. Don F. Dreger goes as far as to call them the oldest major organized system of fighting in Indonesia, predating structured teaching of Silat. 1. The Toraja, Batak, and Dayak cultures all show Chinese influence, and Chinese weapons are often depicted in ancient Sumatran art. Some pre-colonial Chinese temples in Indonesia display combative images characteristic of southern Chinese forms, and many techniques and weapons of Silat are of Chinese and Indian influence. 1. Many Peranakan families can still trace their clan history in the region as far back as the voyages of Admiral Junki. 2. But most Southeast Asian Chinese were brought to the Malay archipelago as working-class immigrants during the colonial era. 3. 4. In Indonesia in particular, every Chinese community had some form of KUNTAO, but were traditionally shrouded in secrecy. 1. As recently as the 1970s, KUNTAO was often practiced secretly to avoid its techniques from being revealed to outsiders, both Chinese and non-Chinese. 1. It was not openly displayed, and public demonstrations would hide the true forms. 1. This changed during the latter of the 20th century, and KUNTAO is now taught commonly without secrecy. KUNTAO was introduced to the U.S. by martial artist and military veteran Joe Rossi, who learned it from his Filipino master in World War II. He was taught the martial art as a member of the Special Forces in the U.S. Navy to apply in combat operations. Rossi began teaching KUNTAO at his private studio in Waterbury, Connecticut after the war. It popularized further, by Willem Reeders and Willem de Thouars in the 1960s. Both northern and southern Chinese martial arts are represented in KUNTAO, but the majority of systems originate from the same southern states as the Southeast Asian Chinese communities who practice them. Fujian, Shandong, Kung Fu and Guangdong styles dominate. Some systems were directly imported from China and underwent little or no changes, such as Pakua, Baguazhang or 8 trigram Pong, and Pei Ho, Meihaquan or White Crane Fist. Among the most common of these are Shaolim, Shaolinquan, Nakokan, Wazaquan or Five Ancestors Fist, and Taiji. Other styles may be a conglomeration of several different schools, 5, resulting from the supposition that they had to adapt to the Southeast Asian weapons and environment. 6. The Sankian form is a common fundamental to all major styles of KUNTAO. KUNTAO in Jakarta is predominantly of Fujian extraction, characterized by their frontal and right stances, right foot advanced. All Fujian stances are based on observations of not just animals but also humans, such as a newborn baby or a drunken man. Unlike the low stances of other systems, Fujian forms primarily switch between the Ting and Pa stance, both of which are designed to feel natural with normally spaced placement of the feet and legs. Shandong styles, practiced across Java and Madura, are Shaolim derivatives, identified by their positioning of the thumb atop the clenched fist, as well as their left stances. Their techniques include high kicks, rolling, leaping, and both short and long arm movements. Styles of Kung Fu origin, not to be confused with the misunderstood term Kung Fu, are known for their rigidity and static postures. Guangdong styles are fast and energetic, employing flailing arm motions, subtle hand movements, and semi-clenched formations for parrying and blocking. Millennia of mutual exchange has at times blurred the line between KUNTAO and Silat. Some schools may use the terms almost interchangeably as in Bali. Others incorporate both words in their name, as with Silat KUNTAO Tekpai. In the most extreme cases, a particular lineage is passed down within the indigenous Southeast Asian community until it loses any outward Chinese reference. This has sometimes been intentional, particularly after the Chinese Communist Revolution. Between 1949 and the mid-80s, some schools were rebranded as Silat to distance themselves from Maoist China. Additionally, the establishment of Indonesia's Silat governing body IPSI in 1948 was a motivating factor for martial arts schools to be recognized by the association if they're considered Silat. The rise of racism in more recent decades has further resulted in alterations to oral traditions and histories, de-emphasizing their inception as the product of Chinese culture. The following are examples of such revision. All are characteristically Chinese in their techniques, tactics, and medicinal practices.